Oh my god. Still going? Okay, yeah.
You have an ear back there.
No, I know.
To check to make sure.
Alright. Hello everybody, welcome to KAMP Student Radio. My name is Peyton and you are listening to the KAMP interview series. Welcome to episode 2. Today we have another student guest, so that is super exciting. So, guest, if you could please introduce yourself, your pronouns, where you're from, and your involvement on campus.
Okay, hi, my name is Therese Peralta. She, her, hers are my pronouns. I'm from El Paso, Texas, originally, and what I do on campus, I'm involved in camp, obviously. I'm also involved in UFO, which is like a film club, and I'm trying to get more involved on campus this semester because I'm a freshman, so I didn't get too involved last semester because I was kind of just adjusting, but I definitely want to get more involved, and I also just recently joined ASA, which is the Accounting Students Association.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Okay, so what do you define as a role model and who is your role model?
That's a very good question because I think a role model is anyone that you can look up to for their accomplishments, but I think also their mistakes. And I think they can help you learn, and it can be anybody. Like, it doesn't have to be just someone who's like famous or really, really successful, like a billionaire or something. I think we all have role models in our lives that are closer to us. Like, I have 2 older sisters, so they're role models for me in a lot of ways, and like my dad's a role model for me in a lot of ways. And if I had to pick a celebrity role model, though, it would definitely be Dolly Parton. I love her, and I think she's so inspiring because I just love people who are able to overcome adversity and become successful, and I think she's a perfect example of that. And even through her success, like, she remained a kind-hearted, good person, and I respect that a lot.
Yeah, I can relate. I have 2 younger sisters.
Oh, so, wow. So you have the burden.
Yeah. Oh, my God.
Definitely.
When you're the first one out of the gate, it's a lot. It's a lot.
No, I'm so grateful to have older sisters because, like, they can teach you so much, and it really helps so much. Like, for all the older sisters, you deserve respect, you deserve pay, compensation.
Definitely learn from their mistakes. Do as they say, not as they do. So how do you feel like you're a role model to others?
So, like I was saying, I'm the youngest, so, like, at least in my family, I'm probably not the biggest role model, but I try to be a role model for other people my age and, like, my younger friends, and the way I guess try to be a role model is showing them, like, being hardworking and, you know, being successful at, like, a certain level, because obviously, you know, I'm just starting out, I'm not, like, some super successful person, yet, hopefully, you know, soon. Fingers crossed.
Definitely.
But just, like, working hard, I think, is the main one. And, like, in high school, for example, I was involved in a lot of clubs. And I helped out a lot of the younger people in those clubs kind of get acclimated to what it was like and how to, you know, be successful and, you know, go to state, or, I don't know, like, offering my advice that I can give, kind of being that older sister to some of my friends that I have, especially ones who don't have older siblings. I guess that keeps going with, you know, siblings and analogy, and I don't think role models are only siblings, but but I think they definitely play a role.
Definitely.
And I think also being a good leader is very important in being a role model and showing people that they should do things and they should be the ones to take charge sometimes, and it's okay, and, like, you gotta do what you gotta do, you know, to be successful and help people along the way also.
Yeah, 100%. So then what made you decide to attend the University of Arizona?
So there are a few factors that played into me wanting to attend the U of A. The first one being I did get a scholarship here. I have a, like, tuition scholarship, and that's hard to come by these days. A lot of schools are very stingy, and a lot of the schools usually only offer, like, financial aid, and even then the brackets are incredibly small. So it makes it very difficult to find a university that's going to even offer you anything.
I know, and, like, the catch-22 is that the financial aid is a loan. So it's like you get approved for a loan. It's not like you're getting the money, like, quote-unquote, for free. Like,
exactly.
It's such a scam.
Yeah, exactly. Like, and it's like, I know I need to get this education so I can, like, get a job and, like, do all these things that I want to do in my life.
Yeah.
And you're telling me I have to pay so much money for it when it's kind of, I think especially today, there's not really like as much of a choice. Like I think it's pushed so much to go to college and like get a degree.
Definitely.
Like that's the only way you're going to be successful, when there's plenty of successful people who didn't go to college. But so like that was the main one for me, was definitely scholarship, because I was between a school here obviously, and then also a school in Texas, University of Texas at Austin, and they didn't offer me anything. So that definitely like
for in-state. Wow.
In-state, yeah.
Wow.
I mean, it was just like you get in-state tuition, which is already much lower, but that's it. And so I was like, oh, and so coming here, it was going to be a lot cheaper. And then as well, my older sister is currently at the university, and she's studying something completely different, but that was another factor that kind of contributed to me being like, okay, well, if I go here, I have like some support already, or there's some sort of foundation already like laid for me there. And then my oldest sister attended the university about 5 years ago now. She graduated in 2018. Wow. So she's an alum. So, is it alum or alumni? Because I think one of them's plural.
Oh, alum. I think it's like interchangeable.
Okay. Well, she's one of the two.
Okay.
But yeah, so that also played into it, because like she already knew like a lot of the really cool things about being at the university and Tucson in general. So that definitely helped, because I was coming here already with some knowledge. It wasn't a complete blank slate, I guess.
Definitely.
So that definitely impacted my decision for sure. And I think those were like basically the main factors, honestly.
So now that you are going to school here, do you feel like you made the right choice, whether it be in your degree program, socially, what have you?
I've struggled with that question, because I think since I'm a freshman, there's still like that little bit of doubt in the back of my mind of like, did I make the right choice? Especially because like my other options, I knew a lot more people going there, because here I have my sister, but I don't have anyone else. And then if I went to another school, I would have some of my friends or some people I knew, and it was kind of in my head like, do I want to go somewhere where I know a lot of people already? Like, is it better to start fresh? And so when I think about that, coming here, it's been pretty difficult, like adjusting socially and meeting people, because it really is on you. Like, you are the one that has to put yourself out there. You're the one that has to attend the meetings and join the clubs and try to meet people, which is definitely kind of difficult sometimes, especially adjusting. But I think that the U of A has provided me like opportunities that I wouldn't have had elsewhere, and also like a certain financial burden is already lifted, so I'm like very grateful for that aspect. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think I made the right choice. There's so many good things about being here in Tucson, and I'm a part of like Eller, and I know there's a lot of really good resources for business students or people like in the business field, and there's a really good like alumni system and people reaching out and that kind of stuff, which I'm sure right now isn't as helpful, because I'm barely starting out, but as I get, you know, as I progress in my degree and in my like academic career, I think it's going to be very helpful. So I'm sure I'll be more grateful in the future than right now, because right now it's just been a bit tough, but good at the same time. I don't know.
So do you think these challenges, like you're describing socially, will probably benefit you like in the future, having gone through this sort of experience?
I think so. I think it's always good to be learning and kind of show yourself, like, you know what, maybe I wasn't as like extroverted as I thought. Like, maybe I have to work a little bit harder if I want to meet people and talk to people. So it's definitely a learning experience, and it has been for me. And like, okay, this is what makes me uncomfortable, and this is what makes me comfortable. And, you know, sometimes you have to do things that make you feel uncomfortable, because they're not always bad. So, I don't know. I think that in the social aspect, it's definitely kind of a good thing to learn to put yourself out there more. But it is, I think, something that takes more time to kind of build up and progress and get better at almost.
No, definitely. So how do you think the university in general could like improve upon its environment for students?
This is a hard question, because I feel like I am so ignorant to like everything going on campus, which again, partially my fault. Like, I should read the Daily Wildcat or something, like, you know? But I think that for me, at least from what I've experienced thus far, it would be appreciated if there was more opportunity to like kind of meet people and come together, because a lot of it is really on your own. And it's so hard to find clubs because there's so many, and figuring out like, oh my gosh, like, do I join this club or this club? What's the difference? Are they the same? And like trying to branch out and do that has been kind of difficult, so I wish it was a little bit easier, and I don't know if there's anything the school could do to help that, because I think it's kind of just the adjustment period of being a freshman, honestly. But I do know that there are a lot of people who have had trouble, like, with administration or just general, like, on-campus things that happen and, like, they let slide.
Yeah.
And I am, like, aware of some of those things, and I completely understand that. So I would want, obviously, those things to improve, like, definitely socially and as well as just, like, systematically, I guess.
Yeah.
Having, like, more opportunity for, like, certain students, and I don't know. Like, I just think that generally that can be improved, but I also feel like that can be improved in most institutions, like most colleges, which is unfortunate that it's like they're not already there yet, but I think that's probably the main ones for me.
Yeah, especially with, like you're saying, like, how, you know, students want these changes, and it's so troubling sometimes because a lot of the times it falls on deaf ears. Like, you know, people outcry for, like, whether it be, like, more social events sponsored by the school that, you know, are free with tuition or what have you, or just, like, updated club websites. Like how you were saying there's so many clubs. I was looking on the, like, University of Arizona's, like, registered club page, and, like, half of the clubs are either, like, have outdated emails or, like, aren't here anymore, or some clubs, like, aren't even on the ASUA webpage. So I think just, like, lessening the red tape, definitely.
Yes. No, and I completely, like, that is so true. When I was looking at the website where, like, all the clubs are listed, I would look up a club that I knew existed, and I couldn't find it.
Yeah.
And I was like, wait, so where is it? And then I would have to, like, go and try to find a webpage or an Instagram and then email and communicate with all these different people when it's, like, what's the point of having the website if we're not going to get any help from it? Like, we're still, like, kind of responsible for finding all these people and all this contact information from, like, 20 different places.
No, literally.
So that's definitely a challenge, and I wish that could be a little bit more organized a bit, because I definitely think that it would improve for students, especially, like you were saying, like, school-sponsored events, like things you don't have to pay for.
Definitely.
I feel like that would be a big improvement, because a lot of stuff that they do have on campus, it's like, oh, well, you have to get a wristband, or you have to do this. Like, it costs money, and it's like, well, I'm already paying tuition to be here, and you can't let me, like, walk on the mall and go in a bungee house without paying $5.
No,
like,
literally.
Sorry, but
that... So annoying, so annoying.
And I know that sounds so, like, silly in comparison to, like, actual, like, issues, but it is. It's kind of like, well, isn't that the point of, like, being here?
Yeah.
It's like we're paying money, and we're supposed to be getting something back, and it should be more than, like, just the education aspect. I feel like there should be a lot more.
No, definitely, especially when going to, like, a state school, because, like, you could get a degree in accounting or finances or engineering from a community college, or a much more affordable, quote-unquote, college. So, like, when you go to a big state school, part of the draw is the social aspect, definitely.
Exactly. Like, if you're hoping that going to a school like the U of A, which kind of has a reputation for being, like, a bit social, we'll say, like, you're gonna have more events to attend or, like, more things to go to as just, like, a general student at the university without having to be involved in, like, 20 different organizations to, like, get invited to anything or go into anything for free.
Yeah, and that's one of the reasons, especially, like, in KAMP, like, finding organizations that kind of have that, like, built-in infrastructure for community outreach and, like, social building. Like, most, if not all of my, like, close friends I made in college or through the radio station, because they, you know, have those events where it's free and you just show up and, like, people support each other. So, yeah.
Exactly. That's also why I'm, like, very grateful to KAMP, because the dues are, like, $20 for the whole year, which is, like, much more affordable. I think it's for the whole year, right?
Yeah.
Okay. I was like, correct me if I'm wrong. Okay. Well, still, even if it was $40 for the whole year, like, that's still really good, and I appreciate clubs with, like, lower dues.
Yeah.
You still get, like, that social aspect of meeting people with similar interests, and I know KAMP does a lot of events, which I'm hoping to attend more of this semester.
Yeah.
But I really appreciate that as well. Like, I think that's really nice.
So then, do you feel like the university in general offers, like, safe spaces for students to, like, express themselves, or spaces in general where, you know, it's just a good time, where people can be themselves and it not be, like, super critical?
I definitely think so. I think a lot of it is, like, who you're surrounding yourself with, and so if you kind of find your people that, like, you get along with really well and you have a lot of things in common and you kind of express yourself in similar ways, you kind of create, like, a little group where, like, your group is kind of your safe space, and, like, the people that you trust, and just other people with similar interests. I definitely think that there's that on campus just because there's so many people and there is so many different types of people and like interests and like senses of style or like hobbies and all those things. So I think that people kind of can join together in those little groups and find whatever makes them happy and other people who are happy doing the same thing where they're not going to be judged for those things. But as far as like, but that's mostly for clubs and organizations that are run mostly like by students and have a big student-based like
leadership.
Leadership, exactly. That's the word I was looking for. Thank you. But I don't know if I can say that for the school exactly like itself.
Yeah.
But again, like I have such limited experience and I haven't utilized any of the resources that would be available to me, like for me in the sense of like my demographics. Like I haven't looked into any of like the women's, I don't know, like clubs
or like health clinic.
Yeah,
or,
the
like,
clinic or like, I don't know, anything for like Hispanic students as well. Like I haven't looked into it too much, so I can't say how much those like communities or clubs or organizations or whatever like provide that space for students. But again, that's like something I'm hoping to get a little bit more involved with and kind of see for myself this semester.
Yeah, definitely. So then what communities do you identify with?
Well, I'm Hispanic and I'm a woman, so I feel very strongly with like being in a female like dominated space or like environment and kind of having that like female empowerment. Yeah. And that's like a really big one for me, as well as being Hispanic, and I come from El Paso, which is a majority Hispanic city. It's like 86% Hispanic, and so that's like what I've grown up around. That's what I've always been around. So that's like very important to me, and finding other people who are also Hispanic who might have some things that are relatable, like just on the basis of, yeah, we're like the same ethnicity, you know? Yeah. Even though there's so much variation, like even within like being Hispanic or being Latina, like there's so many different individual cultures and all that, which is like so different, but it's also so fun and it's such like a learning experience to have friends from different cultures within the same like, I guess, identity almost. Yeah, like sorry, go ahead.
No, like, so kind of just like support system.
Yes, exactly, and kind of having that sense of relatability as well. Like,
definitely.
Oh, like other people who have parents who are immigrants or things like that, or similar experiences. I don't know. And I am like speaking as a person who, when most people talk to me, they don't assume that I'm Hispanic, because I quote unquote don't look Hispanic, which is kind of silly because there's so many types of people who are Hispanic.
Pretty broad.
So I think it's kind of a little bit more of like a stereotypical, like, oh, in my head, like, this is what a Hispanic person looks like, this is what a Latina looks like. Yeah. So that's definitely, like, kind of a challenge sometimes, kind of fitting into groups as well, because I am, like, considered, like, white passing. And also, like, my upbringing was kind of unconventional for, like, a Hispanic person, I guess. Like, not for being Hispanic, but as far as my identity as a Hispanic person, like, my household growing up was not a Spanish-speaking household, which kind of separates me from a lot of people who are Hispanic. So there's kind of that, like, trying to find that niche of other people that are also in a unique situation kind of thing, which can be difficult. But it's definitely important, and, like, that's another thing that, again, like, I don't know how many times I'm going to say it, but looking forward to this semester, kind of trying to find more people that I can, like, relate to and, like, identify with. And then on top of that, like, even though I don't consider myself to be a part of, like, the LGBTQ community, I am, like, an ally, or, like, I try my best to be an ally to the community and, like, support in any ways that I can, which I feel like are kind of limited right now because I'm like 19, you know, so I can't contribute as much as I would like, but I still consider myself like an ally to those communities, and I always want that to be like part of me and like what I do and how I live.
Part of the values you promote. And
exactly.
Yeah. So how do you think like the intersections of your identities are represented, if they're represented at all? Are they accurately represented, you know, on university and media that you consume, etc.?
I feel like there's definitely a lot more representation nowadays. Like, it's definitely getting better, but it's still not great. You know, like, there's still not that much representation, or if there is representation of, like, Latina or something, it's usually, like, a stereotypical like archetype of
caricature
of what that means, and so it's not exactly relatable. And I don't expect every character I see on TV to be relatable. Like, I like this character, but we have nothing in common. In real life, if they were real, we probably wouldn't get along. But like, they're still cool, you know. But I feel like in media, especially, like if you are not what the molds or what the stereotype is of being like Hispanic or being a woman, like you kind of get excluded a little bit, and it's a lot harder to find opportunity, because for example, like if you are an actress and you want to apply for like a Hispanic role, if you don't look a certain way, you're not going to get it, even if you are Hispanic, even if you grew up like all this way, like a traditional, like quote unquote traditional like Hispanic upbringing or whatever. And so I definitely think that that poses like a big challenge in actually representing everyone.
Yeah, 'cause then it's like your case specifically, like how you're grappling with your identity from your upbringing. It's like, well, I'm sure other women and other people, you know, experience something very similar, and because it's not reflected as being normal, like, it's hard.
Yeah, definitely. And that's the thing too, where it's like, for me, I get happy if I see like a Latina actress, like even if we don't look anything alike, and we did not grow up the same way, like it makes me happy to still see like that representation, because I know that that's really helpful for like a lot of people, a lot of other people. But I still think that it's definitely a work in progress when it comes to representation, like in media. And then as far as on campus, like right. No, I mean, there's definitely like a lot of Hispanic people on campus. That's one of the draws of Tucson for me, is it does have a higher Hispanic population, and that's like a lot more familiar. But as far as on campus, like I definitely haven't met as many Hispanic people, or like had that opportunity to really interact. But I do know that they're there. Like I know that they're here. I just haven't found them yet. So that's like just something that I'm kind of working towards, and kind of finding people that are more similar to me in like that way. But
and it's also interesting how I feel like the bookstore because like for Black History Month and for other like months of celebration, like it'll become decorated in like a theme, but the theme is like also kind of like stereotypes, and like I don't know, it's just, it's very performative, so I can definitely see how people may find like distaste in the quote-unquote representation that the university does try to peddle. I wish that instead of doing something like that with the bookstore, which like that's great, like that's definitely getting some demographic, acknowledgement, a little bit of something, but I wish there was more like outreach and more like, here are resources for Hispanic students, for Hispanic women, or like Black students, or like gay students, like whatever, like they had just like some easier, more accessible kind of like tangible help. Exactly. Kind of more like, oh, let me go talk to this person, and they'll kind of direct me to where I can kind of find other people that are similar to me, or not similar at all. Like, just to branch out. But that would definitely be a lot more beneficial, I feel like, to other students than just being like, yay, Hispanic Heritage Month, like, we did it, guys, we did it, and then that's it. Like, I don't know, it definitely is a bit performative, like you were saying. So then how do you feel like you personally help your community?
Me personally, like, I want to do more to help the community, and like growing up like in high school, which I kind of base law off of just because
your age.
Because it's my age, which is like unfortunate, and I hate doing it because I'm like, oh, this is so embarrassing. Like, girl, you're in college, grow up. Stop talking about high school. But
it's okay.
But in high school, like I was involved in like the National Honor Society and the National Spanish Honor Society. So like part of being in those clubs is getting hours and like doing community service. And I think that for me, a lot of my community service or benefit to the community was more like everyday small things than, oh, well, like once a month I go to like the food bank and count cans, because that's like a lot more rare and requires a lot more planning. So for me, like some of the easiest things that I do is kind of like picking up trash, or like reaching out to students, tutoring, like that kind of stuff. And that's kind of what I did to try to benefit my community. And I definitely want to do more. And again, it's like about finding those resources and those people who I can talk to that are going to point me and be like, hey, like here's this opportunity to help other people out. And I don't know, I think just in general, being like a kind person to the people you meet every day is like a small way to
Yeah.
help your community, which sounds like very cliche and very...
No, it's definitely true.
And it is a bit like, well, that's kind of the easy way out. Like, oh, you're just nice to people. Okay, you're doing so much. But I think that that's definitely like a simple thing that everyone can do to like help the community.
Yeah. So then how do you feel like the community at large helps you, whether it's the community you identify with or like the community that you choose to surround yourself with?
I definitely feel like in general I get like a lot of support. Like I have like really close female friends, and like having them as like my support is just so nice because we already have that one thing in common, and like a lot of things are very relatable to all of us, and like that's why we all kind of get along really well. So I'm very grateful for that. And I think in general, like the certain communities like Hispanic community like want to see fellow Hispanic people succeed, or women, same thing, like want to see women succeed, and we want women to do well. And for example, like Saturday I went to a brunch that was for women in finance, which is put on by Eller, like the finance part, to get more women involved and like be like, hey, like look, there's other girls that want to do this.
Yeah.
You're not alone, even though this may be a more male dominated space, like you're not alone. And I like appreciate that, and I think that's a really great way where like the community kind of pulls you in and is like, look, like we got you, like you are not alone. And I think that's very beneficial and just important in general to have that feeling of like, okay, like these people have got me.
Yeah, camaraderie.
Yeah, exactly.
Definitely.
Like, yeah, definitely, like camaraderie.
So then what do you think, like how do you think external resources or people with money basically that control these types of things could help these communities in your community?
I definitely feel like having like resources, just like if there was a better updated website that you could go to, and kind of more like, hey, like there's these different communities based off not only your interests but maybe your background or like certain experiences even that you've had. That would be like really helpful, because I know that those clubs exist, like they have to, but it's just really hard to find information when you have to scroll through 600 plus clubs to find the one that's like, oh, this is still here, and here's the email, here's the president.
And the search bar never makes any sense.
No!
Because when you search it, it'll like search Google, it won't search the website. Like
literally every time I try to search up a club that I'm looking for, it always doesn't exist, or it puts me to one that like had one keyword that I was looking for, and I'm like, that's not
compatible.
Not what I was looking for.
It's not compatible.
And even then, like that already relies on you having an idea of what you want to be interested in. And like I've tried looking into certain clubs where I wouldn't know what they'd be called, so I just kind of look up, like for example, like a club for like people that are trying to improve Spanish, like something like that. And it's very hard because it's such a broad and like not specific. Yes, exactly. Like, and this search bar, this search engine, and the I guess code or whatever that they use is like, we need exact what you're looking for, or we're not gonna find it.
Yeah.
So I definitely think that having a better access would be beneficial, because like I've tried, like I found KAMP through walking down the mall, and y'all were there like, do you like music? And I was like, I like music. And so I went over, and like that's how I found out about more of these things. It was kind of like, oh, somebody saw a flyer and they told me, or I saw something. Yeah, exactly. And I think that that's very effective, but at the same time, like word of mouth is very effective if you know more people. So coming onto campus when you're kind of secluded and like on your own, it's very hard to kind of get word of mouth, because you don't really know anybody. And especially other freshmen, like a lot of the time, like freshman year is kind of figuring stuff out, so there's not as much stuff going on as far as getting involved besides like sororities and fraternities. I know that's a big one. But I definitely think that if it was just easier to like find things that I was looking for, that would be like the best thing that could happen.
Because I feel like everyone's like so focused on like what your major is and deciding your major like as soon as possible. But I feel like they should also have a form where when you sign up to the university, you click like all your interests, like finding a roommate. It's like finding clubs. It's like you click all your interests, and then it'll give you registered clubs that like you're compatible with.
Exactly, and that would have been perfect. And it could also give you information like, okay, these are dues. This is the accent, like information, because that's the thing too with like
demographics.
Like, exactly. Like, oh, like this is like a predominantly Hispanic club, or like whatever, something like that. That would be very helpful in kind of figuring out like where to find people and like where to go. And like even with the Accounting Students Association, like which I just joined, they've only had like one meeting. I found that because my dad was like, there's this thing on campus called like something something something, and I was like, okay, let me look it up, and I couldn't find it when I looked in the club search. So I went online, I went on Google, and then I went on Instagram, and I looked and I looked, and I was like, where is it? And then eventually, I don't even know how I found it, but I found like the website or some like one link, and I was like, okay, here's the information, let me take a shot in the dark here and like email this person and hope that they can get back to me and like that this is real. And so that was like a lot of